What's going on, guys? I'm not going to sit here and make some special fancy video for you. It's not my style. I make videos that are informative and sometimes entertaining. So I wanted to basically address all the new printers. If you don't know what to buy, neither did I. Okay, so I saw the Kobra X came out. I pre-ordered that after having a bad experience with my last printer. I sold it off and I had a couple of months where I didn't have a printer. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be my comeback. So I'm gonna get this one and I'm just gonna print. I'm just gonna print. And I was like, you know what, this is gonna be a great idea. I'm gonna do a side business of this and do some more creative printing and sell them on the side for extra income. And I've successfully done that for the most part. Not a whole lot of income, to be honest with you, but I also haven't tried to reach out to, broaden areas for purchase, basically. Anyways, I got the printer and I freaking loved it. It was great. It was a huge upgrade over what I had, and I was like, this can't get any better. And I don't know what is better. My buddy has brought his printers here. We have a FlashForge Adventure 5M over here, and then we have a Kobra 3 with a, what is their AMS called? Ace Pro, whatever. So I really like the Kobra X over those. The simplicity of having your filament spools on top has been great. And you'll hear everybody in their little videos they make on YouTube, they're talking about how, oh, the setup's easy, blah, blah, blah. Yes. Taking out of the box, putting it together is very simple. Okay. Using it is very simple. Repairing it is quite simple too. I have nearly 1,000 hours in print time on this printer, on just this one Kobra X, that I got pretty much immediately, like first shipment. It has presented quite a few problems. I've had bed adhesion issues. I've had a lot of issues. Like, I kind of understand, you have some adhesion issues right out of the get-go if your build plate's dirty. And I don't know if I said this or not, but I am not a professional. I do not print enough to be considered I am not very computer smart. I know how to take electronics apart, put them together. I started doing stuff like that at a very young age. But I never got into computers and never really understood printers until I had my Anycubic Viper last year. And I had a lot of issues out of that printer, so many issues. It could have been user error, I don't really know. But I got the Kobra X anticipating a plug and play setup almost. And as far as I understand, there's not a such thing as a plug and play printer. You just plug it up, you run it, and you just keep using it and going. It doesn't stop, it doesn't break. But between the bed adhesion problems, the inability to print with TPU, I don't care what anybody says. I have had zero. Well, actually, I take that back. I had one print come off this printer that was made of TPU. It immediately clogs after that. So, the printer has a lot of flaws. I think they over-engineered the tool head. I think the tool head might be slightly over-engineered, or they might have used poor choice of materials here and there. I noticed that the things that ride on the cam that actuates, pressure on the specific slot is made of plastic, and plastic's not bad. It has a time and place. I feel as if that might be some of the issue with the feeding issues I have. But I also had an issue with this particular roll of filament. I don't think it was the roll of filament though, but a piece of it got stuck in the heat sink part above the nozzle. So there's a cutter right above the nozzle, and there's a heat sink part, and then directly on top of that is a little tiny square that has 4 holes. And those 4 holes feed into this channel to go, each one will funnel down into one hole, down into the nozzle. So I have had repeated issues, and I currently have an issue with it right now as we speak. I have it tore apart slightly, where a piece of this filament, now I'm going to show this to you guys. Maybe some more experienced users might have some tidbit of information on this, but Hobby Lobby PLA sparkling burnt titanium. Here's what it looks like. It's a translucent blue with a silver and blue metallic finish. I freaking love this color. I love this filament. So much so that I plan to continue to buy it, even though I have had repeated issues with this printer and this particular filament. So TPU does not work. The cutter does not cut it. Now there are upgrades that you can print to kind of help with this, but Anycubic, you guys just literally need to take the print head and make a version 2 of the print head and just say, here you go, here's an upgrade for all of our printers that's going to resolve all your issues. Now I know that's not going to happen because they've sold so many of these, I'm sure, and it would not be economically smart for them to do so. The printer is awesome, it is, but as you're printing with one color, if you have, let's say, a long or big single color print, the other spools on the machine are going to unspool slowly, and when they do that, that opens up opportunity for tangle, which I've had issues with before. Now they say this thing has AI detection and all stuff. I have never really had too many issues with this thing just stopping and showing the error code. I just check on it and it's printing in the air. Another issue with this printer is, I guess, an artifact of it being a A1 clone, is the camera angle is pointed down like this. So here's the bed, here's the camera. So until it comes up, you're not going to be able to see your print. So what did I do? I printed a little thing that tilts it to where it's pointing straight to the build plate. So you see the build plate go up all the way on the camera. So that might be part of why the AI detection doesn't work. But this thing is a clog-o-matic. So around 700 hours, this is where my inexperience comes in. I didn't change the nozzle. I kept the original nozzle in there and ran this thing over 700 hours of printing. Is that recommended? I don't know. But I do know that after 700 hours of printing at a pretty long print, and went to go fire up the printer the next day after the print had finished, and somehow in some point in time the printer quit printing the previous print. I was like, it's missing a couple layers off the top. I wasn't really too concerned. It didn't really ruin the print, the particular print that I was doing, because it was almost 100% infill. I sprayed some air freshener here and it's killing me, because this shed has a musty smell to it. Not sure what that sound was, but anyways, what was I saying? Brain fart. So from an honest perspective, a newbie perspective, okay, the printer has issues, lots. When it prints great, and it prints a good majority of the time. So that's why it's not a complete piece of junk. But the Adventure 5M from Flashforge just next to me and the Kobra 3 over there, I've not had these issues with either one of those printers. So the complexity of the print head, I think, is to blame. And if you're a newbie and you're just getting into printing, you might want to look away from the Kobra X, in my opinion. It's really cool, it's really enticing, the price is great. It's somewhat innovative with, you know, the way that they've done the print head. But don't let the marketing scare you into thinking that this is the only printer that does 4 colors out the box without having to buy an EMS. It is not. It is the only one that has the cutter in the location that's in that allows it to have such little waste and such little prime time. It does produce less waste than most printers. Actually, I don't know of any printer that produces less waste other than ones that just simply don't produce waste. You know, so you know, but that's a whole different bracket of printing or printer style. So I'm kind of frustrated because I got this shed I've had sitting somewhere for, you know, going on 8 years now, and I moved it here onto my new property and we cleaned it. I pressure washed it out really good. I got rid of everything that was in it pretty much. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna order 3 more of these Kobra X's, and I'm literally just gonna line them up on the wall, on one wall, and I wired it to do so. And I'm gonna run these 4 Kobra X's, and then obviously my buddy's Kobra 3 V2 and the Adventure 5M go on the opposite corner over there by the computer. And those can be for him to do whatever he wants or to help with the production of our prints that we do. So, and now I'm kind of like, now I'm back to searching. I'm trying to find something else. Do I keep this printer? Do I sell it? What do I do? Because I love the simplicity. The user interface is simple. It seems to work great for the most part. I just can't get past the clogging, and I've had repeated issues. Oh, what I was saying, oh my God, is after 700 hours of printing, that print where it stopped, and then I went to go start it the next day after that print had finished, was it started to print and it was just pooping out this big glob. And what had actually happened is the hardened steel tip that is on the nozzle has actually just came out, and I don't know where it went. And so it didn't print after that. I do have a backup nozzle for it now, so I will probably give that a shot, trying to change that. But I have had this issue with this. I thought it was the file. I don't have the example in here. I cleaned my trash out recently. But I had this particular file. It was a like 40-inch long articulated dragon that was coiled up on the print bed, and it would do about 65% of the print, and then it would just stop printing. Thought it was the filament. It was not the filament. So I went back in and resliced it. I changed the layer height. I scaled it down 5%, make it a little smaller too, so it does not as much. And I changed the infill to be, I think I went up on the infill, kind of give it more mass and make sure it's more durable. And I was like, okay, you know, we're going to print this, and this should solve the issue. And it did not. It had the same issue, got to about 65%, and then it just stops printing. And when I say stop printing, the printer continues to print. Like, it thinks it's printing. And all it's doing is grinding on the filament in one particular spot over and over and over, and it's not able to push it in. And when I go to pull that filament out, it's hang on. Here we go. Here's the filament. It does this, which doesn't make sense to me, because 65% or whatever in the print, it's not doing a color change. So if it was doing a color change, I would understand, you know, hey, we're cutting the filament and then it's getting jammed up. No, it's getting jammed up as a continual strand. And then when the printer is finished printing, then it's cutting it right there. So it's getting cut right here, which is right above the nozzle, but it's getting jammed before that, which doesn't make sense to me. You know, like I said, you know, this is not, that is not the same filament. And that was what I thought it was something to do with the filament. So I got some of this burnt titanium stuck in the print head yesterday, and actually, I might be able to see. See the grinding? And there's the bend. So that's, well, I didn't know I didn't have it on the right lens. So that's what it's doing. And now I have this like chunk of filament stuck down into the block. And the last time I had this issue, there's no way to get that 4-into-1 block that's on top of the heatsink, that's directly above the nozzle. There's no way to physically get that out, that block off, to get down in there to get that piece out. And I went to Facebook to try to find a solution, and everybody says there's a set screw, you take it out. There is no set screw on mine. It looks like there might have been one and then they ground it flush, I think. But I cannot find any type of way to get that apart, to clear that clog, and now it's clogged and I have to take the whole print head apart and literally remove the nozzle, the part that holds the nozzle and the heat sink above that. I have to remove that out of the print head. And to do that, it's quite extensive. I'll show you. So here I am taking this apart. So I initially pulled this guy out, and well, actually I initially pulled the tube out and tried to pull the filament out here. That didn't work, it snapped off, so I pulled this out, tried to pull it out from there, and guess what, it snapped off again. So let me get the flash on here for you. It's slot 2. Yeah, you can see it down in there broke on slot 2. Over here. So now I've got to get this whole thing taken apart. Let's see if I can do this for you. Sitting on my island right here. So this block, let's see, how do I do this? I've got a Galaxy Fold I'm using. So right there is where it goes into here, and this has 4 holes in it, and then you have 1 hole that comes out the bottom of this heatsink. This is where it's getting clogged. So I got to remove this whole assembly, which you can actually, once you remove this, and this stepper motor here that has the worm gear for the can, once you remove this, you can actually remove this fan, and then you can access the bolts to remove this. In theory, I've not done that yet, so don't hold me to that. But yeah, it's kind of frustrating to keep having to do this kind of stuff to it, and have it down. So, but I'm going to tear it apart and try to get it running again here, and then it's my bedtime. So, but man, I don't know if I would really necessarily recommend this to newbies. You have to be quite comfortable with taking this thing apart to print with it. So, but that's kind of standard. I think, you know, you need to understand how these printers work and how to repair them when they do break. That's normal. But another issue I ran into was I heated this block up, and then before it completely cooled down, I started putting it together, and apparently this cutter here is made out of some type of softer plastic, and it slightly melted, so it sits a little further back. It should sit like this, but it sits back like that. And you can't just buy this cutter. If I can, someone please let me know, but I've not been able to find a way to buy that by itself. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Kobra X. Anycubic has some work to do. Hopefully they'll fix it. Adios.